I think the best thing to start with is your questions. What is it that you would like to have clarified, either from what we discussed yesterday or from what Rinpoche explained today?
What of the two is it, or is it both?
Translated as self-grasping and self-cherishing. Self-grasping, that word grasping means to take. So it is projecting an appearance. So there is the self or identity of the persons and of phenomenon. So where we get a little bit confused is that we think that because of the word self, that it's just referring to a self of persons, but actually it refers to both of those. So it is projecting an appearance of a person that is static, partless, and can exist independently. Then on another level, that also can be known by itself, even if it is non-static and has parts and can't exist independently. Nevertheless, it could be known by itself, which is the Vaibhashika view. And then if you go into the voidness of all phenomenon, the so-called identity of all phenomenon, then you get into, truly existent or self-established existent, dependent on whether you're talking about Chittamatra, Svatantrika, or Prasangika. So it's projecting that way of existing, which is false. It doesn't refer to anything corresponding. And then the second aspect of the grasping is taking it to correspond to be real. So, and to be real coming from, anyway, taking it to be real, let's put it that way. So incorrect consideration of it as well. So that when we say self-grasping, that's what we need to understand. So an arhat doesn't have the projection of person as being static, partless, independent, and knowable by itself, but still would have the what should we say? Trying to untangle it because there are different aspects of this. If you speak in all of that ignorance, which doesn't know that doesn't correspond to reality, and that the pakcha, the imprints of that, not just of the ignorance, but of the grasping for true existence, that makes that appearance. So if you're talking about the non-prasangika systems, only that is an emotional obscuration, one that prevents liberation. So you get rid of that. Okay, so then you're still left with the cognitive obscuration. So according to them, the non-prasangikas, that still would make an appearance of self-established existence. Prasangika throws that into the put it another way. I didn't say that correctly. According to them, the non-prasangikas, the obscurations preventing omniscience, cognitive obscurations, not only make the appearance of self-established existence, but also that you take it to correspond to reality. So now that taking it to correspond to reality, the prasangikas throw into the emotional obscurations. So it depends on which tenet system you're talking about. What are the arhats left with? So when you become an arhat, then, according to prasangika, your mind, you still have that projection of self-established existence, but as Rinpoche explained, I don't think he explained it here, but explained upstairs to me, that and to Simon, that for an arhat, that appearance of truly self-established or truly established existence, for a non-arhat, it appears as though it's coming from the side of the object. For an arhat, knows that it's not coming from the side of the object, but it is still coming from the side of his mind, because of the imprints of taking it to be real. So that is an obstacle, because then you don't know, all sentient beings, and you don't know all their past karma and the result of what you would teach, and so on. So it prevents you from helping others. And also what Rinpoche was explaining upstairs was that, it takes 2 zillion eons of building up positive force to get to become an arhat, according to the prasangika. It's just, according to all of them, it just depends on what bhumi that occurs on. They differ on that in the different tenet systems. But they become, the self-cherishing is the laziness not to put in the 3rd zillion eons of positive force. That, oh my goodness, 2 zillion eons was enough. Countless just is the highest number. So in the Indian mathematics system, so I forget how many zeros that number has, 10 to something place, 26th place or something like that. So that's why I use the word zillion, which is in English is, not a definite number, but it's, countless. So they're too lazy to do that. But Rinpoche was saying that then what attracts them, as you were saying in the class, is that to benefit others, they can only benefit them to a certain extent, because they can't see. Then Rinpoche gave the example of the one that was the fly on the piece of dung that went around the stupa. So, that in order to be able to, to appeal to their laziness, the arhats that just, would want to relax in the extreme of peace, it's said, of nirvana, that to benefit others, because they, it's not as though they, we have this depiction that the arhats are completely selfish and just want to get their own liberation, but they still need to build up positive force to get 2 zillion eons of it, but they're limited in how many beings they can benefit. But their laziness attracts them, because they would have to put in a lot of effort. You have to put in effort because the imprints of grasping for true existence makes this appearance of true existence, and that because there's that appearance, you really have to put in effort to help them, to benefit them, because you don't really know, what is going to be the effect of what you teach and so on. So it requires effort. That's the problem. But if, you think, well, I can benefit them effortlessly, that appeals to their laziness, and that becomes, attractive to work for that state. So this is what Rinpoche was referring to. Self-cherishing is I'm the most important one, and I'll ignore everybody else and just work for my own sake. So that's sort of selfishness, self-centered, and so on. That's really only dealing with the person, not with all phenomenon. But we get confused because you translate it as self-grasping, and so, of course, it sounds like self-cherishing. So grasping for self, then I prefer identity. You're referring for identity of, a person as an Atman, or the identity of all phenomenon as truly things. So then identitylessness, which is a horrible word, but I think it is less misleading than using the word selflessness, which you really need a definition of what that means. So next question. A thing you would like clarification about? So the question was, we were asked to do meditation on self-grasping, and that this was, and to understand the suffering that comes from self-grasping, and that this is necessary for understanding, for getting the understanding of voidness, right? Well, this falls into the category of recognizing the object to be refuted. And Shantideva says, if you can't see the target, you can't shoot an arrow into it. So, and Gelugpa emphasizes very much and Tsongkhapa, I should say, emphasizes very much recognizing the object to be refuted. That's why we need to understand that so what we try to do is to, in identifying that the self-grasping, hopefully it was, we made the difference between self-cherishing and self-grasping, because it would be easy to then think the meditation was just to meditate on how I'm selfish, and that causes, because it says in the Lojong text, the mind training text, that all suffering comes from cherishing oneself, and all happiness comes from cherishing others. Therefore, I will change, self for others. So that was not the meditation that we were being asked to do, but a very powerful meditation, actually, to recognize that. So here we are talking about making that if our mind makes the appearance of self being static, not affected by anything, we wake up in the morning and here I am again. So that is, that automatically arises. Here I am again. I haven't changed in any way, and I'm the same person I was when, especially when you get older, I should say. That I am old. I'm going to be 80. But when you get old, then in your mind, you don't identify with your age. You still think that you are, I see all these people here, and I think that I'm the same age as you. But I could be everybody's parent who's here. So I don't think in terms of age. So I don't think you think that you're the same. You haven't changed. You're not affected by age. So to recognize the suffering that comes from that, to try to do things when you are older like you did when you were younger, and the suffering that comes from that. The older people here can recognize that. And then, looking at, to think that I'm partless. Well, am I only a body? Am I only, because then people who are good looking will identify only with their body, or people who are very intelligent will only identify with their intelligence. Am I only that? But do we have, all these parts that the self has as its basis? So you look at the suffering. That's what we're trying to identify, and then go deeper in terms of, the suffering of thinking that I know myself. I mean, what in the world does that mean? What do you know? You know yourself. How can you know I know my body, I know my emotion. What do I know? Or I know you. I know my friend. I know my partner. Well, what do you know? How can you know them? Well, I know what they look like, or I know, So the suffering that comes from that, because then you think that you really know them, and that they really surprise you by some other aspect of themselves. So then you could also think in terms of when, your mind projects that, the person is Chittamatra. The way they appear to me is the way that they actually are. Well, my mind is making an appearance. I mean, it's like, for instance, when many people who are very concerned about their weight, you look in the mirror, it doesn't matter how much weight you've lost, I'm still fat. Or I'm ugly. Or, things like that, or that's the appearance. I mean, and you mistake that for, this is on Chittamatra level, you mistake that for, what do you actually look like? Well, this is what it looks like to me. Then, you think, well, there's something inside me that makes me unique. That there's a defining characteristic that, together with mental labeling, I call myself, I'm unique, I'm special. So then all the suffering that comes from thinking that I'm so special, which is really underlying self-cherishing, that I'm special and I should get my way. Everybody should pay. Well, what comes from that is everybody should pay attention to me. I am, what should we say? I'm the most important. There's two ways in which that can go. Either, I am so, I want to get the best seat. I want to get on the, U-Bahn, before the door closes, even if I have to push the others away, or it could go in the other direction, that I am I didn't look at the other one that came. That, I'm the least, that's the opposite, humility. That, I'm nothing. Like this, I'll go last. And then you take pride in being the worst, in being the lowest. That's a misunderstanding that can come from the 8-verse Lojong, to consider myself the lowest and others the highest. You can still have pride over that. So in this way, or just that I am, self-established. So then it appears to me that there's, again, something inside me that makes me special. So the suffering that comes from that. So this is the type of meditation that would be indicated by meditating on self-grasping, and then you see what is it that needs to be refuted. That's the object of refutation, and you are moved to want to refute it when you understand the suffering that comes from that, the problems. Suffering, a bit of a heavy word. I would think problems, all the problems that you create for yourself on the basis of that. That's what really we're talking about, because it's not, so much that, there is unhappiness that's associated with it. You look at yourself in the mirror and I'm still fat and you feel unhappy. But it makes problems for yourself. Okay. Next.
My question is twofold. Can we talk about the difference between tainted and untainted karma? As well as, secondly, can we talk about the untainted karma that a Buddha has?
Right. So tainted and untainted. Can we speak about tainted and untainted karma of both an arhat and of a Buddha? There are two levels of untainted karma according to Prasangika. Tainted literally, I shouldn't say literally, each of the tenet systems defines tainted, what tainted and untainted means. So that doesn't become easy. So untainted, tainted and untainted, how is that defined in Prasangika? Tainted is with an appearance of self-established existence, and untainted is in total absorption on voidness, when there is no appearance of truly established existence or self-established existence. Prasangika says the two are equivalent. The others don't make it equivalent. But in any case, so untainted has here in terms of an arhat, the mind is no longer grasping at the truth. The mind is still. Okay, let me do this again. Rinpoche explained it like this. First of all, we need to understand the difference between total absorption, I think Jeffrey calls it meditative equipoise, but total absorption, it's just a different inflection of the word samadhi in Sanskrit. It's total absorption. And the subsequent attainment phase, that's usually translated post-meditation, which is misleading because you're still in meditation. And, well, there are two phases of it, One is you're still in meditation, and the other one is in between. But the main point is in meditation. So, and it only arises subsequent to total absorption on voidness. Has to be preceded by total absorption on voidness. And then, when you are totally absorbed on voidness, there's no appearance of self-established existence, and it's not even implicitly cognized, which means with it, implicit means that it doesn't appear. So, for instance, when I see this table, explicitly I see the table, implicitly I know that it's not a dog. Not a dog doesn't appear. Although that's a silly example, but you get the idea. But you know that it's not a dog. You know that it's not a, whatever. It's nothing other than a table. To get back to our nothing others than. So, likewise, the basis of voidness doesn't appear. Now, subsequent attainment, what is the what arises when you are no longer totally absorbed on voidness? You're still if you're talking about an Arya, you're still non-conceptual. Is that there is a illusion-like appearance of objects, and implicitly you know the voidness of them. So what's the difference between an arhat and a Buddha? For an arhat, the appearance is illusory-like because it appears as truly existent. So something that appears as truly existent, because they still have the imprints of grasping for true existence, but they know that it is like an illusion. They know that it doesn't correspond to reality. So that is, and then what they would do on the basis of that, when they're out of meditation, would be untainted karma. For a Buddha, there is no separation between total absorption and subsequent attainment. So for a Buddha, you have pure appearance, which is this, leave it. You have what's called pure appearance. It is like an illusion, but it doesn't have the appearance of truly established existence. So there's a difference between something that has an appearance of truly established existence and is illusory-like, it's illusory-like, and something that appears that it's illusory-like, but doesn't have an appearance of truly established existence. So that was new to me, by the way. I didn't know that before. But Rinpoche explained that. And when you have the mere conventionality, as opposed to conventional truth, then the mere conventionality would refer to that there are two types of mere conventionality. I mean, we usually hear mere conventionality as when you are not analyzing either on the deepest level or the conventional level, then it's, that's mere conventionality, differentiated from conventional truth. But that sounds as though it's the Svatantrika position, that you take away truly established existence, and then you're left with mere conventionality, and it's not that. So Rinpoche explained that there are two types of mere conventionality, and I'm thinking now of the poor German translator of all of this. There are two types of mere conventionality, what the Arhat sees and what the Buddha sees, and that only the Arhat, to know conventional truth. You don't really know conventional truth when you only, and Rinpoche explained this, but you don't really know conventional truth when you only see the appearance of truly established objects. You only really know conventional truth when you know, like the Arhat, that there's the appearance of truly established object, but it's void. So that then you've seen conventional truth.
For an Arhat or for a Buddha?
Well, an Arhat is the one that actually sees it. Arhat is one that actually sees it. So then there's the whole debate about whether there is an appearance. What is the appearance to a Buddha? And so and this is what the non-Galupas assert, that if a Buddha's enlightening influence, this is how I translate this, I forget how Simon translated, but the enlightening influence of a Buddha, the Tinley, that is effortless, that a Buddha, well, like the example of His Holiness, that His Holiness, people come into his presence and he doesn't have to do anything. They get so emotional, they cry, and so on. He has this positive influence on them. If they have some potential on their side, of course, not for everybody. So that's a good example of effortless. What was the point of this?
Two types of mental conventionality, mere conventionality and conventional truth.
Right.
Difference between the Arhat and Buddhas.
The Arhat and the Buddha. So right. So what is an appearance to a Buddha? So the non-Galupas would argue that if a Buddha's enlightening influence just benefits all beings automatically, then a Buddha doesn't have to have an appearance of sentient beings. It just automatically benefits everybody, effortlessly. So there is no appearance of all phenomenon to a Buddha. So then you get this explanation that, for a Buddha, there is illusion-like. You can't say that a Buddha doesn't know anything. How do you explain Buddha's omniscience? There's the argument back to it. So you have to say a Buddha has, is omniscient. So, but everything is illusion, like an illusion, but without it appearing as truly established. To appear as truly established, I was using that analogy like a still photograph. So it's not like that. So this is a big debate between Galupa and non-Galupa of whether there is an actual appearance. So then that goes into further discussions of whether what is Rupakaya, what is form body. Okay.
So just for an Arya being in subsequent attainment.
An Arya.
An Arya.
Not an Arhat. Okay.
Yeah, an Arya being in subsequent attainment.
Right.
That person, that Arya being, what this Arya being does is creating untainted karma.
Yes, so it's untainted. Okay, so I left out, so what is the karma of a Buddha?
Okay.
It's the same word how to explain this. From one point of view, creating karma, remember that was the first question that was asked yesterday. It's not that you create karma, you're creating karmic potentials. So remember, the mental factor of urging is in every moment of cognition, and that is called a karma. The Buddha has that. It's there. And in the word for karma, I mean, it's not exactly the same in Sanskrit, but in Tibetan, lay is karma, and the enlightening influence of a Buddha is tinlay, is the same word. Sanskrit, it's samudachara, and karma. So it's not quite the same word. It doesn't derive from the same verb. But it is a type of, what you were saying, activity of a Buddha. You know, the so-called enlightened activity of a Buddha. Does a Buddha build up more positive potential? Well, no. Buddha's completed 3 zillion eons of it, you know, doesn't need any more. But a Buddha, the so-called effortless enlightening activity of a Buddha, Buddha isn't doing anything, but everything is done, in a sense. So you would have to say that that is the untainted karma of a Buddha, the untainted activities, or the enlightening activity of a Buddha. The enlightening, not the activity, it's not the action, because he's not doing anything, but it's the effect that it has on others that have the potential to be affected by it. Like you have to come out into the sun. If you stay in the cave, you're not going to be affected, warmed by the sunlight, is how it's explained in Uttara Tantra, Gyu Lama. Okay. We can also discuss, but perhaps leave it for this evening when our dear German translator won't be stuck with it, but Christian will be, who can handle it. The whole discussion of the, what was Simon calling, substantial cause of the form body. Mm-hmm. We'll leave that discussion for this evening, that explanation, because that's tough. Yeah.
Yesterday you were talking about mindfulness to be the glue, but I did not get for what.
Okay, mindfulness, the mental factor of mindfulness is it is defined as the mental factor that does not let go of its mental hold on the object, prevents you from letting go of the object, from losing, that hold. So I describe it as a mental glue that holds that keeps it there.
Okay.
And it won't, and staying on the object, that's concentration. That's the mental factor of concentration. So that's why it is in the what is it called? It's not the ever functioning in a Sangha system. The other 5, Vasubandhu counts it as as ever functioning.
Omnipresent.
No, the other 5.
Object ascertaining.
Object ascertaining.
Object ascertaining.
Ascertaining just means to get it definitely, to ascertain. But and Asanga defines them only in constructive behavior, so that's why it's restricted. And because he's always emphasizing meditation. And then Vasubandhu says, all 10 of them are in every moment. So there's always some, staying on an object, even if it's for, a microsecond. And there's always this, not letting go of it, so long as you stay there.
And what's then the difference between concentration and mindfulness?
Concentration is the holding the object, and mindfulness is not letting go. Mindfulness prevents you from letting go.
So you need both of them together.
They work together. You have to have the two together.
Okay.
they work together with attention. I mean, and together with alertness. So alertness is watching what's going. This is in meditation. It's very important. It's keeping a watch, but not in a dualistic way, of what that mental hold. So His Holiness, when he teaches shamatha, says you shouldn't think of alertness as something, this dualistic, then there's the policeman part of the mind looking and checking, am I staying on the object or not? He says that it would come automatically with the mindfulness, that it's part of the mindfulness, this mental factor, that it is, within that thing. If you have the mental glue, it's aware that it is not, that it's there. It's not going to let go. But the alertness is watching, and it goes ding, ding, ding like that, that you've lost the object, and then attention, this other mental factor, brings it back. So this combination of concentration, mindfulness, alertness, attention, you need to know how that they work together if you're going to try to attain, some state of concentration. Very important. Know the mechanics of it. Yeah.
How does self-grasping ignorance lead to
You need to speak more loud. I'm hard of hearing. So
how does self-grasping ignorance lead to attachment?
how does self-grasping ignorance? Remember, we differentiated self-grasping and ignorance are different. They're not the same. Self-grasping, making the appearance of truly established existence and perceiving it. Ignorance is not knowing or knowing it incorrectly. So it's not what is making the projection. And because because there's that appearance and you are taking it incorrectly to correspond to reality. So in terms of me and this object, then as I explained just from my own analysis, the way that we experience that is insecurity. We imagine that there's the solid self, but there isn't one. Because there isn't one, you feel insecure. And so, there's this little voice in your head, there's worrying all the time about me and what do people think of me and, all of that. So that gives the appearance that there is a separate me inside us that's worrying about all the time and insecure. We all feel that. The fact that everybody feels insecure is very, indicative that we have this ignorance, this misknowing. And so we have these strategies to try to make the self secure, which is impossible, which will never work. You can't make something non-existent secure, stable. So attraction to get something. So there's three types. Longing, desire for what you don't have, attachment to not let go of what you do have, and greed to have more. So we think like that's going to make the self secure. If I can just get everybody's attention, if I can just get all this money, if I can just get, whatever, now that's going to make me secure, and it's never enough, of course. The other person, all they have to do is say, I love you once, and that's enough. It's not enough, obviously. It doesn't make us feel secure. Then anger and aversion, and that desire is exaggerating the good qualities that aren't there. projecting good qualities that aren't there, or exaggerating the ones that are there, and not seeing the negative qualities. Therefore, that you want it. So anger is the opposite. You exaggerate the negative qualities. And then you want to get it away from you. That if I can just get this away from me, this will make me secure. And then closed-mindedness, which is a form of ignorance, is like putting up the walls. If I just ignore it, it's not, I'll make myself secure. So that comes from this appearance of a solid me that can't possibly be made secure, but you feel insecure because it can't be made secure. And we're unaware that it's not like that, or we misknow it. We think that it can be made secure. So it works like that. So I should repeat that. When it says the ignorance, which is a disturbing in the disturbing mental factor, which to misknow things, to take, take something in the opposite way to which it actually exists. That this is the source of all suffering, and so if we get rid of that, then we won't have any more suffering. So what does that actually mean? What is the suffering that you are getting rid of? You are getting rid of the suffering, the all-pervasive suffering of rebirth. So rebirth, samsaric rebirth. Well, an arhat has that, but still there are the instincts of that, the tendency of that. Well, this is the I translate it as a how in the world do I translate it? A continuous habit. When you talk about there are potentials, there are tendencies, and then there is continuous habit. The potential and tendency will only give a result occasionally. You have a tendency of anger, and you only get angry. It's not that you're angry every moment of your existence. Or a potential for rebirth. It's not as though you are, rebirth every moment. I mean, in one sense you do, but in another sense you don't. But this continuous habit, it continually, unbrokenly gives, produces its effect, which is an appearance of self-established existence. So that's what's left over. When you've gotten rid of the emotional obscurations, prasangika, then you're no longer going to, you know that this is illusion-like, but it's still going to give rise to that appearance. We'll do that every single moment. So you don't have the suffering of rebirth, but you still have the, well, it's not quite called suffering, but it is the suffering, when you talk about the three scopes. His Holiness explains that you can understand the three scopes in terms of the Four Noble Truths on each level. What is the suffering? What is the cause of suffering? The cessation and the path that will lead to that. So on the initial level, the suffering is worse rebirths. The cause of that is destructive behavior. The cessation of that would be not having, lower rebirths. You have a higher rebirth. The method for that is refuge and self-control, not to commit destructive behavior. So Four Noble Truths on the initial scope. I'm speaking too quickly. on the intermediate scope, it is the suffering of change. So, the suffering of a higher rebirth, that it's still not going to last forever, and the all-pervasive suffering, so rebirth. And the cause for that is the ignorance, the unawareness, the misknowing, and the cessation of that is liberation, and the path to that is the 3 higher trainings. So you have the 4 noble truths on the intermediate level. So on the advanced level, what is your suffering? Is the inability to benefit all beings without exception. That's the suffering. So it's not really called suffering, but that's the limitation that you have. That's caused by the cognitive obscuration. So the continued habit that gives rise to this appearance of true existence. The cessation of that would be, the attainment of a Buddha. And how do you attain that? Is complete the, with the perfection, bodhicitta, the perfections, and complete building up the 2 networks. So you have the 4 noble truths on the advanced level. So this is a very helpful way. That's why when you say from the 2 truths, the 4 truths, from the 4 truths to refuge, that's one way of, filling that out. Understand the 3 scopes in terms of the 4 noble truths. Very helpful, actually, to look at it that way. Okay? So let's end there. The very brief dedication, 1 verse dedication.
Mandala and dedication.
Pardon?
Mandala and 1 word.
Mandala and yes. Shi bugi chushi meto tam rira blingshi nide gembadi sangye shingdu mikde uwagi jokananta shingla jupasho dan guru ratna mandala neyatayami Rinpoche mage banang gegeche yebanyamba mebayang kone kontu belwasho. I think what is very, because when I teach, I never recite verses. You just say, just generate that state of mind. You don't need the verses, then you put in your own words if you want to put it in words. But what I think is very important is to take the clue of, how you dedicate this from Shantideva's 10th chapter. And Shantideva's 10th chapter, the dedication chapter, is not, may I attain enlightenment, may I, so never think in terms of may I attain, may this act as a cause for me to attain enlightenment. That's, as Serkong Rinpoche said, that's still self-grasping. I dedicate this for all sentient beings to attain enlightenment. May all sentient beings have happiness, etc. That's, I think, an important aspect of dedication. It's not just for me, it's for everybody. Okay?